This video is my next instalment about trying to find bargain second-hand items for your model railway, and I'm focusing today on rolling stock wagons. I did coaches, I've done locomotives, and so I thought I'd look at wagons because really, if your layout's going to look anyway realistic, you're probably going to have more wagons than anything else on your layout. I'm a bit embarrassed to say, on my layout I counted, I have 160 wagons. I had no idea I'd got that many. 160, quite a few of them are hidden away in the fiddle yard, and on display at any one time on the layout there's probably 30 or 40, but I didn't realise I had so many. Now, how can I possibly afford 160 wagons? I'd just been on a certain big retailer's website, and I noticed that the cheapest wagons produced by Bachmann started about £20. A company called Rapido started about 22 and went up in some cases, you know, 30, 40 pounds quite happily. For some of the more modern, bigger wagons, they are astronomical prices, or you could buy 3 for £90 or something like that. And I thought, blimey. When I look around my layout, I can see I know that I bought 4 or 5 wagons brand new, and all the rest have been bought second-hand. So, when we're looking at second-hand wagons, what are we looking for? What are we looking for to get a real bargain, something that will run well, something that will be quite realistic, but I'm not fussed about absolute precision or anything like that. So, the most common second-hand wagons on the market, I'd say, were from Hornby. This one is from Triang days, I think, Triang Hornby, but they've manufactured wagons like this for absolutely donkey's years. Now this one, you can see probably, as they get older, this one's got little chips in the roof, one of the buffers is broken off, and that's a problem with quite a lot of wagons. They almost all have plastic underframes except for some of the very expensive modern ones, so they're going to get damaged a bit. Now I'm not particularly keen on these ones that Hornby mass produced in the sort of Triang 60s, Hornby 70s and 80s. I think the underframe's a bit crude. They're okay. I've got 1 or 2 that I've repainted, but I think somehow being called Hornby helps them to retain value on the second-hand market, so they're not always that cheap. But if I was going to buy these, I would I wouldn't buy an individual wagon. I'd always go for a job lot, and that's my most important sort of recommendation. If you're buying wagons, don't just buy the one. Buy them in bulk. You'll save far more money buying in bulk. People are more reluctant to spend large amounts of money on wagons unless they desperately want a certain one. And therefore, you can sometimes get really good big lots for very little money, especially at this time of year. In the summer, sorry, that's when I'm recording this. In the summer, a lot of people aren't buying model railway stuff, so things go for lower prices. Everyone's on holiday, and they're not necessarily bidding. Anyway, just a thought. So I'm not a great fan of the early Hornby stuff. More recent Hornby stuff I like, a lot of it because it's based on models that were produced by other companies in the 1980s, and I'll come to them in a minute. One of the big competitors of Hornby in the 70s was Lemur. Now, Lemur produced loads of open wagons and box fans and some quite a lot of continental wagons that they rebadged as UK in their early days. They're not particularly good, I wouldn't say, but this one has got metal wheels. It came in a rather bright sort of lime green colour, I think it was, but I've repainted it to look like a BR, just a plain open wagon, 7-plank wagon, and I've had my own homemade transfers, which I actually printed on my own printer, and I think those are pretty good. And I got about, I think they cost about £3 each when I bought. I got 5 or 6 of them in a train that I'll show you in a minute. Anyway, so good value. Now, my very favourite wagons, in terms of good value, I'd say, are made by Mainline and Airfix in the 1970s and early 80s. And they've since been taken on by people like Hornby and Dapol and Bachmann, who've taken on the moulds and have improved them. I say improved them, maybe given them metal wheels, but some of them are pretty good to start off with. Now this is a mainline, just a one plank wagon or a low fit wagon. Now everything about it is, I think, fine. Some people don't like the plastic wheels. They're okay. Don't have a problem with them. The other thing to look out for with mainline wagons, can I focus? Is that focusing? Yeah. The brakes are not in line with the wheels. The brakes are well in front of the wheels. So they're not as realistic as when Bachmann took over some of the models. They re-engineered the chassis, and I'll show you what I mean. This is quite a modern Bachmann chassis actually, but it's for a similar sort of wagon, and you'll see much finer detailed brakes, brake rigging, and it's almost perfectly in line with the wheel treads. This has also got metal wheels, so it's a better wagon, but you probably find you might be able to pick up, if you bought a job lot of mainline wagons. I bought 7 for £24 the other day. You know, mainline wagons you can get pretty cheaply, whereas the Bachmann ones, if it's advertised as Bachmann, you might find you have to spend quite a bit more on it. But if you get a job lot and it says Hornby, Lemur, Triang, Bachmann, you might find you get one of these in a bargain job lot. Oh, by the way, here's another Hornby one, dating back from the 1970s. Actually, no, a more recent one, but based on a 1970s moulding. And they've upgraded it by putting metal wheels on it, so that's nice. It came in, I can't remember what livery it was, but again, I repainted it in a sort of medium grey colour, fitted my own coal load. And there are a lot of these on the market. Loads were produced back in the day. North stand is a common livery you'll find. I think they're kind of a sort of dark blue North stand. I don't know who North stand were, but that was the private owner wagon that they made them in. Now I've got here some box fans, and you know, at first sight they look pretty similar. The one in the middle is a mainline one, and as I said before, the brake shoes aren't in line with the plastic wheels, but apart from that, it's got nice livery. I think it's based on a real prototype, but it's built onto a sort of standard chassis that Mainline used for all their wagons, well, all the wagons of a similar size. Yeah, you'll probably see that little one plank wagon has exactly the same chassis as the box van. Whether they did in real life, I doubt it. Anyway, that's the Mainline original. And then here is one that was originally produced by Airfix. Now, I think the body looks identical. I think, yeah, I think the body is identical. The difference is that Airfix did a nicer, finer detailed chassis, brake blocks in line with the wheels, and this is actually an updated version by Hornby, where they put on metal wheels. And Airfix ones have clip-in couplings. Dapol made some of these. Hornby took over them as well. It's a strange history of who made what and where moulds went to back in the sort of 80s and 90s. But anyway, those are great. And you might pay £3 or £4, £5, I would say, is a good price to pay for one of those. You're getting a good value wagon. This one, similar, but not quite the same design. This one is a kit. I don't know who made the kit originally. It might be someone like Parkside or Ratio. Anyway, I think it's, well, I don't know what, it's a slightly different designer wagon. Anyway, it's quite all right. It's got metal wheels. You obviously take a bit of a risk if you buy kit-built wagons. You don't know how well they've been built. You've just got to trust the person who's built or selling them to say, you know, all in good condition or missing a few bits and pieces or, you know, slightly damaged. This one, the wheels don't rotate particularly freely. Pop it on there. Is it going to roll? Not a lot, but it's so light. It would work as part of a shorter freight train, you know, pick up goods with only 5 or 6 wagons in or something like that. And lastly of this collection, I've got, first of all, a Hornby Dapol fish fan. Now, I can't remember, I think I repainted this. I wanted a rake of white fish fans, insul fish, and I put my own transfers on it. And yeah, it says on the base Hornby Dapol Meccano Limited, and it has Hornby Dapol couplings. And that's the thing you've got to be looking out for. That won't be able to couple directly to your Hornby tension locks, the modern tension lock couplings. So what I did, I also happen to have a couple of the Wrenn version. Now, Wrenn took over the Hornby Dapol mouldings when Hornby Dapol went bust. I think that was late 60s, early 70s. And what I've done is, well, at one end we've got tension lock couplings, but at the other end I've attached the Hornby Dapol style or type of coupling, so that three Hornby Dapol wagons, oh sorry, three wagons in a row can be coupled together in amongst other wagons with tension lock couplings at each end. And here is a Wrenn version of the same thing. Wrenn put the tension lock couplings at each end, and instantly they're mounted just with screws rather than riveted in or anything like that. So screw mounted couplings are of course very easy to replace if you need to. Dapol took over that moulding, and somewhere I've got a Dapol version of this with a slightly narrower coupling. I think the Hornby version that came out only a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, costs about £20. I think I spent about £6 or £7 for each of these. I think I got 3 for about 20. I think they're well worth it. Those 3 are all ones I spray painted myself and put my own I put transfers on them. But they work really well and they run pretty well. And 3 for the cost of one brand new Hornby one. Now, the train about to depart from platform 1 is hauled by an Oxford Rail J27. Fantastic model. I did buy this brand new from our local model shop. I just saw it and thought, wow, that looks good. He ran it for me in the shop. It's a superb runner. And that's the thing I might make another video about, the fact that I like my freight locomotives to run slowly and smoothly. Anyway, it's hauling a mixed rake of lots of the different types of wagons I've described. I've got some Lemur 7-plank open wagons. I've got some ex-Airfix and Mainline wagons in there, possibly a Dapol. There's a Lemur brake van at the end, and oh yeah, there's an ex-Hornby Dapol Wrenn bright yellow banana van. Let's see them going. I love watching freight trains go by nice and slowly. If you think this is going a bit too slowly, I'm not exactly sure what the maximum speed was of unfitted freight trains. By unfitted, I mean ones that don't have any automatic brakes that could be operated by the steam engine itself. So they rely purely on the braking of the locomotive. And I've read sources on the internet saying maximum speed 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour. In the steam era, probably 25 or 30 miles an hour seems most likely. So when you've got a nice long freight train, run it slowly. Less likely to have derailments, that's always a bonus. And on the outer line I have a Bachmann Class 06. Robinson designed these, I think, for the Great Central Railway, and it is hauling a rake of oil tanker wagons. Most of them are mainline, so they have those slightly crude underframes with the brakes not in line with the wheels, but that doesn't bother me. 2 or 3 of them are they are Bachmann, but they're all the bodywork of the upper body is exactly the same pretty much. They're all of a similar beautiful detail, and I bought 14 of these for £70 about 4 years ago. 14 for £70 works out at a fiver each. You're going to pay a little bit more now. Maybe 14 might set you back £100 if you buy them second hand. One big job lot. If you bought them individually, you might be paying £7 or £8 each, plus another £4 for postage or something like that. So it does pay to buy in bulk. Now I think these oil tanker wagons had continuous braking, so they could in theory be run at a faster speed, but I'm not going to run them that much faster. I just like watching them go by in a quite leisurely pace. I think to be really realistic, I think all the wagons should be with the same livery, the same company, but hey, I'm not too worried about that. The next train to appear is a Bachmann J39 hauling a coal train, and probably going a bit too fast, but never mind. It's not such a good slow runner as the Robinson 06, but I'll try and slow it down a bit so you can see a better view of the wagons. So as the coal train goes past, there's a mixture of Hornby, which is actually updated Airfix. There's a Bachmann, another Airfix, a kit-built model, some old Hornby, some Mainline and some Bachmann, and a Mainline brake van. Brake fans, by the way, tend to be quite expensive if you buy them on their own. Always better if you see a job lot and it includes a brake van, go for it. As I zoom in on the first of the BR 20-ton mineral wagons, I think it's 20 ton, that's an old Airfix model that Hornby updated, but really there's not a lot of difference except it's got, I think, metal wheels rather than the original plastic wheels that Airfix produced. Anyway, it has just struck me that there is another very cheap source of wagons that you may or may not want to go for, and that is the old Playcraft made by Juef range. I did a video of some model railway bargains I picked up years ago, and that included about 10 or so of these Playcraft mineral wagons. They look quite realistic, except they're a bit smaller than scale. They're somewhere between HO and 00 gauge in their scale, so they don't quite look right against alongside identical wagons of the same design that are a bit bigger, obviously, because they're the right scale. But if you just had a complete rake of those wagons, they look quite realistic. I can't remember the title of the video I did before, but it's something like Model Railway Bargains, and it'll be from 5 or 6 years ago. Anyway, so Playcraft, they're not bad. The underframes are a bit crude, and the wheels are plastic, and they might be a bit crude too. But if you're looking for a bargain, you should be able to pick them up fairly cheaply. I think they only worked out about between £1 and £2 per wagon. And when Rapido were asking £27 or £28 just for a bog standard, to my mind, open wagon, I think any of these older makes are definitely excellent value. I should explain perhaps why some of the newer wagons are so expensive. They are meant to be exact replicas, and sometimes of quite obscure wagons, made by the Southeastern and Chatham Railway or the LNWR or whatever, rather than just a generic wagon, which is what Mainline and Airfix tended to produce, generic box van, and Hornby back in the 1970s. And those, for the absolute purists, they don't want those, but for 95% of us normal modelers, that's all we want. And we don't need sprung buffers, we don't need underframe detail that's actually invisible unless you turn the wagon upside down. All we need is something that looks okay and runs well. And certainly all the wagons I've shown you running today they roll very freely. They are, I haven't had any derailments in all the time. There's been no stopping and starting and hiding things from you. They all run nicely. And I think probably it helps to run them at scale speeds. But I hope you have fun and you have luck finding some cheap rolling stock for your layout. I don't know the exact proportions, but on the real life railway there were probably between 50 and 100 wagons for every one locomotive. I'm not suggesting you and I go to that extreme. We like our locomotives probably more than our wagons, but you can never have too many mineral wagons, I find. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Bye for now.